Let's find the domain and range of a function graphed. Specifically, we look at the image on the left. Recall, what does it mean to be a domain for a function? Recall that the domain of a function is the set of x values that correspond to that function. That is, the domain is your set of possible x values. In terms of a graph, what does that mean? Well, our x-axis is the horizontal axis that runs from negative infinity to positive infinity. And so when we talk about the domain of a graph, what we're talking about is the span of the graph from left to right. Notice this graph starts at the value -2. Therefore, I say that my domain starts at the value -2, and then moving along the curve, not so worried about how high and low I go, but instead I want to know how far to the right this graph goes. And notice this graph goes all the way until the value 3 on the x-axis. There's an open circle at 3, and so I would say that my domain is closed at -2, but open at 3, and x is every value in between -2 and 3. Including -2, not including 3. In interval notation, this is written as the value -2 with a closed bracket, all the way until 3 with an open bracket. Let's talk about the range. When we say the range of a function, we are referring to the set of y values that correspond to the function. The range is the set of y values. In terms of the graph, that means we want to look at the y values on the y-axis that correspond to this picture, this image. Range is not measured left to right. Instead, range is measured top to bottom or bottom to top. That is, how high and how low does the graph span? If we look at our graph at the lowest point, we see that we are at the value -5. So we would say that our range begins at -5. Because there's an open circle, we put the strict inequality. -5 is less than y. And now let's trace our curve and let's look at how high it goes. If we see the graph, we see it goes all the way up to 4, comes back down again. But what's important is how high it goes, so it goes all the way up to 4. The highest place it goes is 4. Now notice this curve is a continuous curve. That 4 is included, so we put a less than or equal to corresponding to that 4. We say that the range is all values of y in between all values of y in between -5 and 4, not including 5, but including 4. The corresponding interval notation is an open bracket with -5 and a closed bracket at 4.